Hey guys, James with Torches and Tactical, and you can probably tell from the sound of my voice that I cannot stop smiling, and that's because I got the Imalent SR32 in stock. Now you can tell from the photo here, but this isn't just any flashlight, guys. This is the world's brightest flashlight. This is a legend in the industry. Actually, it says it right there, legend in the flashlight industry. But that's because this gives you 120,000 lumens, and it'll shine out to over 2,000 meters. That's not 2 meters, that's not 200 meters, that's 2,000 meters. And that's all because this 120,000 lumens comes from 32 Cree XHP50.3 LEDs. And yeah, you better believe that there's a lot of heat joined with this, but this is without a doubt the brightest flashlight in the world. It beats the old Imalent King of the Hill, and that is the MS-18. The MS-18 came in at 100,000 lumens, but this beats it by 20%. So let's dive into the packaging, find out what comes with it, and then we'll hop onto that light. So let's start with the packaging, shall we? This is the box that it came in. Now, if this looks a little bit different, it's because they really stepped up after they had that first initial run that came in the cardboard boxes, similar to the MS-03 that I showed you guys earlier. But this one, I'm sure it's not real leather, but it is a leather wrapped case, and they went for the, I guess, treasure chest look with the clasps here and the handle on the side, so you can carry this around securely. Make sure that you're not going to tire, because this is an absolute beast of a light. But let's open it up and find out everything that comes in it. So opening this up, we can go ahead and lift these latches here. Like I said, it is kind of a treasure chest that you're opening up here, but we pop these open and you do have a large insert of foam. First and foremost, you have a very large insert of foam, and that's going to stop your SR32 from rattling around in there. You do have a cutout for the handle here. Now, when I received the light, it did have this plastic shield, if you will, on top of the lens. That's to make sure that nothing, you were going to get a light in pristine order, as opposed to having it dirty before it even got to you. So in addition to that, there was a battery isolator. Now this is like the thickest plastic isolator I've ever seen. And that's going to stop the batteries from making contact in the light during transit. You also do have the SR32 user manual. You open this up, it's going to give you runtime, specifications, beam distance, all that fun stuff. And it's going to give all that to you in a number of languages. So real quick, I do want to touch base and kind of zoom in on this section here. This is going to let you know that it does have a hole for a lanyard on it. It has the OLED display, has the power switch button, the battery insulation that we already removed. The handle does come on separately for this, and the battery pack is removable if you ever need to, but it also does have Type-C charging on the back, as well as that battery charging indicator. So we'll get this out of the way, and we'll also remove a pack of desiccant. That's going to make sure that things stay fresh. You don't get any moisture or humidity inside there. And it does come with a shoulder strap as well. Now, this is a huge step up from a lot of the lanyards that even the MS-03 that I showed you guys comes with. And that's because this light is massively heavy, and we'll get into that more in the specifications. But this light is heavy, so if you're going to carry it long extended amounts of time, then I definitely recommend getting a shoulder strap. Now we're almost done, guys. We do also have in here a package from Imalent, and they're going to have a couple of replacement screws. Now this is for the handle and a couple of the other sections. You have some Allen keys, and then you have a bunch of replacement O-rings if you ever need them. Now these actually already do feel like they are slightly lubricated. So if the replacements are already lubricated, I feel like the ones on the actual flashlight are also going to be lubricated and shouldn't give you any trouble for a while. But we'll get that out of the way. Then you do have also a USB-C cable. Now this lets you know that it will run up to 6 amps. And that's 6 amps USB-C to C, but that 6 amps will get its power through an included brick that they send with you. Now this is going to have up to 100 watts on the top port, 30 watts on the bottom. Then it's going to have 2 quick charging USB-A ports. So the 100 and the 30 watt ports are USB-C, so that cable that they sent you will work no problem with that. One thing I do like about this too is it is a gallium nitride charger. That's a lot different from your typical inverter style or any of the other chargers you would have that come with a lot of your other electronic devices. Gallium nitride is going to let you get those huge wattages without having huge footprints. So it's a nice touch, and I'm really glad that Imalent is doing something like this. But getting that out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and pick up the box so you can see the foam that it does come in. Now it is really compressed down in this section here, and that's because the head of the light is so massive. They're actually, I wish there were a provision, or maybe if the box were even a little bit bigger, but it compresses it quite a bit down there. And if you look, you actually see markings here on the top, and that's where the light actually made physical contact with. Now, there are a couple here from the charging brick as well as the base of the battery pack, but it doesn't look like any of that transferred over to the light. This, again, this foam is very dense, and it, like I said, it didn't arrive with any damage on it. But if you want to look further at the packaging, on the front, you do have that Imalent SR32 photo, lets you know that it has a 2-year warranty, 120,000 lumens, that's what we're talking about, and 2,080 meters. Flip it over. Now it does have a really, really nice embossed Imalent right here on the very base of it. Let me move it around a little bit so you can see that. And the hinge is fully covered, and the box seemed in really good shape. So let me get this out of the way, and we'll focus on what's important. All right, with that box out of the way, let's focus on the SR32. Now I'll bring it up here so you guys can see this up nice and close. You do see a little bit of that AR coating on the lens. It comes back across as kind of a purple hue in the right lights, and I've always been a fan of seeing that on the lights. It looks really, really good. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring this around. You guys can see here, it's not on now, but this might look like a button. This is an actual small OLED screen. And if you want to see the button, there is one here located on the handle, as well as on the body itself. Now, this is, I'm going to go right out and say it right now, that I wish this switch had a little more spring pressure to it, or at least enough to hold this cover back in place. This moves around quite a bit, and I don't know, you can probably hear that, just me sliding it around. I wish that this felt a little more premium right here. I love the design on it, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love the design on it, but I wish it didn't move around and spin like that. So moving on, now this will not come as a surprise, but this is an absolutely giant head. This is 138 millimeters, and if we move it to the side, the battery tube of this is 56 millimeters, and the whole thing altogether comes in at 220 millimeters. So if you're looking for a small pocketable EDC, guys, I'm telling you right now, this is not it. Especially given the fact that this weighs 2,166 grams. And for all you Americans watching, that is just under 4.8 pounds. This is a 5-pound light. Now, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's not, I wouldn't call it like earth-shatteringly heavy, but I don't want to sit here and hold it out with one extended arm for a long period of time, because I will feel tired by the end of this. So you can see here that there are 32 of those Cree XHP 50.3 high LEDs. And guys, this is something to behold. I mean, I hope it translates into the camera lens, how I'm looking at it right now, and it's just a thing of beauty. Every one of these reflectors is perfectly spotless. Every one of these LEDs is perfectly centered. And I mean, I'm out of descriptive words. I'm just gonna say this thing is an absolute beauty. But if we move down, you do see that bezel, and that bezel, it seems like this is where they tried to shift that beauty, so to speak, and bring it back into a more industrial look. But before I get into the design of the body, I want to run through a couple more of these specs with you. Now, even though it has all these LEDs, you may be surprised to note that this does reach all the way down as low as 30 lumens in moonlight mode. That's right, each one of these LEDs is going to average less than 1 lumen each when it's on that moonlight mode. But it'll do that for 360 hours. And by my calculations, that is a total of 15 days. Or you can jump up to low, that's 1500 lumens, and that'll do it for 15 hours. Then you also have 4500 lumens, and that'll do that for about 4.5 hours. Then you can jump up to 9000 lumens, which is still a huge amount of light. This will do that for 2 hours. Or you can jump up to that second middle mode. that is 25,000 lumens, which is still better than, I'd say, probably 95% of the lights out there. But you'll get almost a full hour of runtime at 25,000 lumens. Or if you really need the light, this thing will go up to 50,000 lumens. And then after it heats up, it'll drop down to 25,000. And it'll do that for 60 seconds on that 50,000 lumen mode. But then it'll drop down and continue running for 50 minutes. So that 25,000 lumens is going to give you another 50 minutes after that initial 50,000 lumen output. Or if you really need to, you can make that huge push and go all the way up to 120,000 lumens. Now I'm going to give you guys a little taste right now. I'm going to do a double tap. And oh yeah, that's a ton of heat. Okay, let's shut that off. But this will do 120,000 lumens for 45 seconds. Then it'll drop back down to that 25,000 lumen kind of a step down mode, and it'll run that for another 45 minutes. All in, that 2080 meters is touted with 1,090,000 candela, and I'm not going to test it here. I'm telling you guys that right now, but allegedly this is drop resistance rated to 0.5 meter. That's 1.5 feet. I'm not going to drop this. I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. This is too nice of a light to intentionally try to drop something like that. And I'll tell you what, if you guys smash that like button and we get 1 million likes on this, then I'll drop this so you can see it and see if it actually holds up to it. But this is also IP56 rated, so if you get a little bit of water on it here and there, it's not going to kill it. Now, I did start to touch on the design choices here a little bit earlier, but I was talking about how nice the actual lens and reflectors and the bezel and everything looks. The bezel is where it kicks back down into its more, like I was saying earlier, industrial mode. But you can see that it is a smooth drop down for the shoulder. And what's really unusual is the fact that it looks almost like this section here is nested onto a middle section. And I'm not sure how it comes apart. I do know that the head comes off, but as far as detaching different segments of the head, I haven't looked into that, and to be honest, I'm a little afraid to. I don't want this to not work after I'm done tinkering. But we will continue down past this. I would consider this whole section here to be the bezel, but you will go down and you have your driver as well as some cooling fans. You have your OLED display here. You have your handle mounted switch as well as your head mounted switch. And I mean, this handle looks like it's designed to pull a vehicle out of the mud with. It is incredibly sturdy. You can see that it's mounted with those two Allen heads right here, but it's incredibly sturdy. I feel no wiggle. I feel no shakes, shimmies, nothing like that. It is incredibly strong, and I don't feel like I have to worry at all about the quality of the handle on this. One interesting thing to note is you do have a fan here. So that's one. I'm going to lock my finger on that one. Then you do have one here, as well as one on the bottom. So one interesting thing about this is that the cooling fans, you don't just have 3 fans sucking in atmospheric air. What you do have though, is you have 2 fans, the ones on the side, you have both of these coming in, and this one is expelling that hot air down the bottom. So, I mean, I think that's a really, really nice design choice, and I think it should be implemented on other lights as well. But, I mean, given the design of that, they obviously couldn't do that since it is a singular fan. But moving on, you do have some massive cooling fins here. These sit about 1/4 inch deep, maybe just a hair less than 1/4 inch. But that design comes through going down to the base of the battery tube. And this battery tube has these long machining marks on it that tie in really well with these, I guess, more or less vertical cooling fins. This thing does need all the help it can get as far as the cooling department goes. If we continue moving on, here, let me take this battery tube off for you. There's a ton of threads because this thing has a gob of pressure. There, you can see all those threads there and a massive post. This post here, this is going to be your positive, and it is going to be ring grounded. So, I mean, this thing alone weighs an enormous amount, but you do have some massive square cut threads. You do have some O-ring seals here to make sure that it does maintain that IP56 water resistance rating. And then it cuts down into these long shelved machining grooves. And I mean, one thing you probably see here is that you don't have any way to charge it. But this back cover here, well, first off, let's look at the back cover. So you have SR32 from Imalent, has your markings here. This is the battery pack MRB217B. That's a 3.6 volt cells inside here, and it runs a total of 92.2 watt hours. Now, fully charged, this thing hits 16.8 volts. So this thing really does put out the juice. But when you need to charge it, all you have to do is take off this back cover. This is a really, really nice blasted stainless, and it exposes this USB-C here. Oh, hold on, let me get this off there. It exposes that USB-C that will accept that full 100 watts of charge rate. So you also do have a battery indicator, and when I charged it, this was hitting red and it turned green as soon as it was done charging. But I mean, we all know that that's not the interesting part about this. Let's slide this battery pack cover back on and we can look inside the head here. Now, I showed you the positive terminal on this battery, and you can see this massive spring mount. It feels like there's a large spring behind there, but they also have this really nice touch of this printed circuit board look on the outside. But this is where the battery pack is going to make its connections. I don't know exactly what can be done about the software in this, but it does have some flashing pads, it looks like, so they could theoretically send something out for a firmware update in the future. Now, moving on though, the square cut threads in here are very, very well lubricated, and I don't know why I did that. But the square cut threads are very well lubricated, and I had no issues or galling or anything like that when they were attached. But we'll get this back on now, and we'll dive into the user interface. All right, guys, for the user interface, it couldn't be more straightforward. Like I said, it does have one handle-mounted switch as well as the head-mounted switch. From the backside, I'm gonna go ahead and flip the head-mounted switch just so I can hold this in a good position for you guys. But if you press it once, it will turn on. Now, let me show you guys this real fast. It does give you the illuminated 30 lumens to let you know exactly what you're in right now. But you press it once, it turns on, and then if you want to change from any of those first 6 levels, all you got to do is press and hold. There we go. That jumped up to 1500 lumens. If we press and hold again, that'll do 4500 lumens. Press again, 9000 lumens. And I know it's adjusting on the camera, and I apologize, guys, but I'm going to keep this going here real quick. Press again, that's 25,000 lumens. And you can definitely hear that fan kick on as soon as you hit the 25,000 lumen threshold. We'll do one more time, and we're at 50,000 lumens. Oh, I gotta shut it off. That got really, really hot. But you can do all 6 up to that 50,000 lumens from just regular long presses of the switch, either one of them. And if you want to go into, let's say we're down at 30 lumens and you want to go into turbo, all you got to do is do a double press. This is all 100, oh, okay. That's all 120,000 lumens, and it'll continue running those fans as well. Again, you have the 2 on the sides. Those are gonna bring air in, and that bottom one, which I was actually covering with my palm, that one's going to suck out that hot air, just to try to keep things as cool as possible. And with my hand here, I can attest to the fact that this is the warmest it's ever been from a flashlight. I'm not gonna do any extended hand-holding run times or anything like that for you guys, just because I'm not gonna put myself in the firing line, so to speak. But what you can do is when it's in turbo, you can press 2 more times and it will go into a strobe mode. And let me cover this real fast. You guys can't, oh, it actually just disappeared, but it will say STR on this OLED screen to let you know that you are in strobe as well. There are a couple other fantastic options that it gives you, and a lot of these are going to be quirks inside the user interface. So one thing to note is that the OLED screen will give you a battery reading if you press it 3 times. So here we're at 16.46 volts. And if you want to turn on those fans because you just ran turbo for a while and you want to cool it down, all you have to do is hold that main switch down for 3 seconds. We got 1, 2, 3. And those fans will kick on without any output from the head of the light. So let's go ahead and 1, 2, 3 again. And there we go, it shut off those fans. Now, an important thing to note is that this does have a memory mode. So if we're cycling through, let's go to 1500 lumens and then we shut it off. You can press again and it'll go back to your 1500 lumens. Now it'll do that for all of them except turbo or strobe, but we'll shut this off. And that OLED screen will also give you a battery indicator. So if the indicator, if you turn the light on and it shows your voltage, if you are under 14 volts, it won't let you go too high or obviously any of the other choices above that, but it will give you a low battery warning here as well. The final thing you can do with this is if you press 4 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. So here you go, you have a lock right there. That lock's gonna let you know that it is locked out, and this is the only way I carry it. So 4 will unlock it again. You'll also get that notification on that tiny OLED screen. But once it's unlocked, you can access all your other modes like normal. So that is it for the user interface on this. However, there is one more little trick up its sleeve. Now, you have this massive battery pack on your flashlight. Let's say, hypothetically, you need to charge an electronic device that you have that is low. All you gotta do is flip open this Type-C cover, which, wow, really does its job for holding out water. But flop that cord in right there, and you can bring your electronic device up right here, and it will start charging. Now this is already charged, but this red indicator will turn on as soon as you have another device plugged into this. So you can use this massive battery pack that you have access to. You can use that as an external battery as well. So I really like the fact that they put that in here and they were able to get something like that to work. And it works well. Now finally guys, we do have somewhat of a catch-22 on the Imalent SR32. Now, I'm sure if you have the SR32, that means you have at least other lights. So it's not a deal breaker. However, there is something that I wish that they would have thought of in their user interface. Now, we do have the switches here, and if I press it, a long press typically does go directly to moonlight. However, after 3 seconds, it just turns on that fan. Let's shut that off. There is no direct moonlight. Now you do have the 120,000 lumens that comes out with a double press. You get 3 presses to give you your 16.39 output reading, but there's no way to go directly to moonlight. And I wish that were the case, because if I'm at 25,000 lumens, I don't want to forget, have to turn this on, and then find out the hard way that I'm at 25,000 lumens, or even 50,000. It's not something that I want to have be a mishap where I want just a little bit or need just a little bit of light, and then I end up getting the whole shebang, so to speak. But if those size readings that I gave you earlier don't quite give you a good idea of the size, the sheer magnitude of the size of this light, let me grab here this AceBeam X75 just so you can see how the 75,000 lumen X75 compares to the 120,000 lumen SR32. Now I'll bring them up here so they both are on the same level. Now it is quite obvious that the SR32 is considerably larger. I'm trying to line up the bases as well as I can while making sure that I have good visibility of everything. But everything dimensionally is smaller on the X75. So this one here has 12 LEDs, 12 emitters coming through, while this has a total of 32. So, I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's almost like bringing a knife to a gunfight comparatively. However, the X75 is no slouch. But what I want to do is I want to compare the X75 as well as the SR32 outside with some beam shots. And I'm going to let you guys know right now, I'm trying to get access to an A1. So after I film this, if I am able to get access to a Wuben A1, that 25,000 lumen throwing monster, if I'm able to get access to it, I will have beam shots for that as well in this comparison video. But for now, let's get the Acebeam X75 and the SR32 from Imalent. Let's get them outside and see what these things can do. So you can make up your mind as far as the beam pattern, the throw, how wide the beam goes, and see which one you guys like better. So let's get out there. All right, guys, we brought the Acebeam X75 out to compete with the Imalent SR32. Now, the Acebeam X75 does have 12 of those Cree XHP70.2 LEDs and a 5000K tint. So that compares to the SR32 with its 32, again, yes, count them, 32 XHP50 LEDs. And I mean, frankly, this one comes in at $400. This comes in at $645. So it is a little bit of how much do you want to pay to play. Now the X75 is a very capable light. It is quite a bit lighter. It fits in the hand very, very well. But frankly, 75,000 lumens doesn't compete, especially for the throw. It doesn't compete with these XHP 50.3 highs. This gives you a lot of light output, 120,000 lumens, and that 2080 meters. So, I mean, frankly, dimensionally and as far as the specs go, it does best the X75 in literally every regard. So a lot of it's going to come down to how much are you willing to pay to play. The SR32, my biggest complaint about this is the fact that it's not accessible to everybody. Now, this is a ton of light, and I mean, I saw it even more expensive, $679 on Amazon, and that puts it out of reach for a lot of people. Now, I love the light, and I wish there were like an SR32 smaller variant. Now, I know there's the SR16 and everything, but even those, it's one of those things that if you pick up the SR16, it's not that much more just to go to the SR32. These are very high-priced lights, but you do get a ton of quality. And aside from that, my only other complaint is the fact that this doesn't give you access to moonlight mode. I showed you those flashing pads earlier. I do think that can be fixed in a later revision. I don't know how they're going to end up solving it on lights that are already out though. And finally, the big elephant in the room. There have been a few cases of these XHP 50.3 high LEDs burning out. Now, the early ones, allegedly there was some thermal management issues or overvolting, and that was causing some of these LEDs to burn. Specifically this middle ring right here. That's where I was seeing most of it after doing my research. I don't have any of those issues on this particular light. This is a second batch though. You can tell from that packaging. The early ones that came in the cardboard box, those are the ones that were having the issues. But I have not had any issues with this light. And from what I can tell, Imalent has been doing their job as far as making sure that they are taking care of other people who are having these issues. So Imalent, good job there. I really do appreciate it. It's one thing to have an issue with a light and then just to cower behind your guys' hard to contact email support or something like that. But if you're looking into the problems and trying to formulate a plan of attack as far as getting those taken care of for people who already are having issues, I truly appreciate that. That being said, let me say one more time, this one is not having any issues, has been working great, and I do hope that it continues to be a success as it has been so far. Finally, guys, this is by far the most expensive foray into a review that I have gone. So I'm not kidding. We can do these things all the time. I need your guys' support though. A thumbs up really helps. If you like, share, and subscribe, click that bell notification too. That will get this video out to a bunch of other people. The bell notification, when you click it, what that's gonna do is that's gonna let you guys know as soon as we get a new video out. And we're able to do stuff like the Imalent SR32 more frequently. Now, we're not at the place yet where we can do giveaways for something like this, but who knows, maybe further down the road when the SR64 comes out or the SR128 or whatever multiple. When that comes out, maybe we can do something like a giveaway for that. That would be a huge blessing to this channel, and we would want to pay it forward by blessing you guys with these giveaways. So again, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and smash that bell notification, and also leave comments down below. We love hearing what you guys think. So that's going to be it for this one, and we'll see you later.